Well, hi everyone, and welcome to Pushing the Limits. Today, I have Bonnie with me, who is going to be sharing all about the QRI laser. So welcome to the show. Thank you so much for making time for us today, Bonnie. Fabulous to have you.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. I'm excited to share.
Now, you're sitting in warm and sunny Florida, and I'm sitting in the cold midwinter New Zealand.
Oh, dear.
Bonnie, can you just give us a little bit of background? I came across the QRI laser through our mutual friend, Dr. Elizabeth Harris, the most amazing doctor down in Dunedin, who is up on all the latest and greatest technologies and devices and therapies. And she put this on my radar, and I'm like, wow, this is interesting. So that's why and how we've come to be today, to talk today. But Bonnie, can you just give us a little bit of your background and how did you develop this amazing technology that you have?
I've always had a passion for helping children with literacy and children with reading difficulties. So as a teacher, I taught special education, resource teacher, then I became the department chair in San Diego. And we used like brain gym and different techniques to help the children, and we had fabulous results. So I'm always looking, and I have my youngest son also has a learning disability. So I'm always looking and wanting to do more. And a few years ago, I moved to Florida, quit teaching, moved to Florida so I could help more children. And through the process of first studying reflex integration for several years, then a friend mentioned the cold laser. And what a lot of people don't realize is that you can put the cold laser on an acupuncture point for 20 seconds rather than 20 minutes.
Wow.
And so we're using it for that, but also numerous other things, obviously. But so we have an acupuncture point program type that is getting results with children all over the world. We're in over 109 countries, and that's by word of mouth, and the results are really fantastic.
Wow. And so can you explain to people listening who may never have come across reflexes and primitive reflex integration and what the heck that means? Because I think a lot of people wouldn't even know what reflexes are. I mean, we might know that when we go to the doctor and he taps on our knee and it flicks out. That's about it, probably. So can you go back to what is a reflex and what happens in the development? This is this is a laser system that can help not only children but also people with brain injuries and people like mum with strokes and things. And this is why I've been interested in it. But can you just give us the basics on what is a reflex for a start and why things go awry there?
So primitive reflexes, when I started researching this over 15 years ago, I would spend hours on the internet and I couldn't find any information, hours and hours, because we didn't really understand primitive reflexes, and to the point that we did understand them, but nobody knew anything to do about them. So primitive reflexes are kind of like the building block for your neurological system. So when the infant develops in the womb, these specific primitive, even during the birth, these primitive reflexes help the baby get down the canal. So if you have a C-section or something like that, some of those reflexes don't get initiated at the right time. It's even one reflex, the Moro reflex, actually tells the baby it's time to be born. And there are other reflexes like crawling and different spinal reflexes that help the baby come down the womb and be born. And if everything goes well, then the baby goes on, and these primitive reflexes start helping us develop the baby reaches appropriate milestones at the right time. But when they're not connected, whether it's from damage from chemicals or something before or after birth, or a hard birthing process, or some brain damage, or anything's going wrong, then we can see little significant glitches with that child. That's often how they find out a child has cerebral palsy, by checking their reflexes. Oh. But unfortunately, we don't address them very much because, even OTs and PTs in the past didn't know what to do. They had some ideas, and people were doing things like holding the body in certain positions and pressing here and there, and hoping the body would get it. And so these reflexes could kind of come on board. These primitive reflexes are actually important for everything, literally everything we choose to do.
Wow.
Whether we choose to close our eyes, open our mouth, talk, think, move, anything that we do, these are kind of the building blocks of the neurological system. So if we go and do like tutoring or, specific things, it becomes just a Band-Aid because we haven't got to the bottom to actually teach the child how to do whatever it is they can't do on their own. And it typically doesn't come really fast, but I found with the cold laser, it can be up to 10 times faster than the methods we were previously using. So it's really significant that way. And we all have reflexes that aren't integrated, but if a child has like a cluster of primitive reflexes, then they are impaired in some way. And so we have a process of assessing every reflex. We still address them all because they work well, and the protocols we use with cold laser do much more than primitive reflex integration. Our kids are, healthier because it helps the immune system. There's just so many numerous other benefits from the program. We have children with Down syndrome that are actually getting taller, growing better than expected. And so we didn't even know that it would help children with differences like that. And so it's a genetic difference. The children with Down syndrome, there are several other syndromes that we're getting really significant results. I think there are like 20 some children in the world with NKH, and half of them are using our laser system, and they're doing so much better. We just had a comprehensive with a mother with a very rare genetic condition. And she said, all the other children that have this genetic condition are on feeding tubes. Some can't breathe on their own. And her little boy is now walking and babbling. He's about 7, but he's doing things really unexpected for this particular genetic condition.
Wow.
And so we're really excited to share this with children all over the world and help them at least reach their potential.
Yeah. So when we're talking about reflexes, so there's things like the Moro reflex and the fear reflex and the Babinski reflex. So these are things that are they sort of instinctive behaviors that we do, and then over time we integrate them, we no longer need them, and then they sort of go away. Is that how I should be understanding? Like I've got
they don't exactly go away. What they do is they're kind of there on the sideline like a backup player.
Yep.
So if I have a stressful condition and I need to go into the Moro reflex to protect myself, I can do that. And an example of that is you find the little baby monkeys that are holding on to their mother. That's the Moro reflex. They squeeze onto so tight. Yep. They're gripping. And so later on, if we need them, we want them there. But the problem is when they don't integrate, there's a whole bunch of them saying, here I am, there's problems. And then the child can't focus. Things aren't working well because it puts the body in stress. And so all these other primitive reflexes that might not be working actually agitate the Moro reflex and make it worse. So they're in fight or flight. So they go to read a page and their eyes are locked like this. And so they can't trap, or they're taking a test, they go into fight or flight. So even the things that they can do become more difficult. And the things that they can't do, like say a child with Down syndrome, speech, they have to use so much more energy than you or I do. And so all these things, a child with ADHD can't focus, or a child with autism trying to behave and do all these things, because what a primitive reflex does, it takes away your ability to choose how you respond.
Right.
Now, we've all said things or reacted in ways from a reflex, but that's rare. But for these children, they react because they don't have the filter there, or that allows us to pause, think, and react appropriately.
Wow.
So a child with autism may bite someone and really feel terrible about it, but it was just a reaction beyond their control.
Yeah. So And if we're looking, so like I know with my mum, who's had my listeners know had a brain aneurysm and a stroke. And so on the right side of her body, she had spasticity, or she was paralyzed for a start, and then spasticity in the right hand, and this right arm is never, and her right leg doesn't walk correctly. Like she can't get that left-right sort of crosstalk going properly. And I've been doing on the hand. I've been using another device which I interviewed the founder of Resimax. I don't know if you know Resimax, but it's a vibrational tool that stimulates the hand, and we're trying to reintegrate that reflex into so that she can. She grabs all the time, right? She's if I hold her on the hand, she'll crush my hand, even though she's an 81-year-old lady. She'll crush me, right? Yes, it's so strong, and she will hold on. And
that's an overactive hands grasping reflex.
Yes. So this is where we're doing this, and this is a laser it's a cold laser. Can you explain what the difference is with a cold laser and a hot laser? You know, we think of lasers as something that you can cut things with, and
exactly, sure. Yeah. Before that, I'd like to just put in a little about my mother, who has had 3 significant strokes and quite a few small strokes, and so she should not be walking, talking, and she's 95.
Wow.
And I went with her to the neurologist, and she's like, all her reflexes are in place except one, and that's putting one foot in front of the other, like, walking as such. And she's living a fairly good life. Yeah. They don't know how she's walking. They don't know how she's talking with these significant strokes. She went in the hospital for COVID. I was able to use a laser on her. The doctor said it was a miracle that she came out of the hospital. And now she talks really well. She's sometimes a little immature, and she has, there are some side effects, of course. But considering where she would be, I don't think I'd have my mother today.
Yeah.
So in my life, it's been a huge blessing. And now I'll talk a little bit about the cold laser. So what the cold laser does, we're really big on frequencies and frequency sweeps. And that's where I've tried numerous other devices. And that's usually the place that I find the part I don't like. But we have a sweep called the crystal matrix transmitter, and it actually has infinite frequencies. So we love that, because the frequencies, if you have the right frequency, you can accomplish almost anything. You can kill bacteria, viruses. We work a lot on mycoplasma, which is kind of an underlying parasite that is causing most of the problems. So we start at the base, and the cold laser can kill and destroy parasites if you use the certain right frequencies long enough. It will buzz them apart, because it goes into the cell, and the healthy frequencies they help every organ you have, your skin, and even the quality of the DNA, and it increases the telomeres. And so as we age, these little telomeres keep getting shorter and shorter. Yeah. When they're here, we die. Life depends on having some telomeres. And they've actually shown that cold laser slows that down and can actually increase the growth of the telomeres.
Wow.
And it's also been shown that your cells have cellular memory. So when you have an injury, a friend of mine's, when I first got the first laser, her husband had been in a car accident over 10 years ago, still pain in his shoulder because of the cellular memory. It had never healed. She was a great energy worker, body worker, incredible woman. She put the laser on, and getting rid of that cellular memory, the pain went away and the shoulder healed. Wow. And so cold laser goes in and it heals, it stimulates. So it gets the immune system, helps build the immune system by building circulation and increased in the lymphatic system's flow. And so there are, like, I think you mentioned the studies, there are thousands of positive results with cold laser with no side effects. And our laser is low enough. It's a low level laser. And so that they have levels that they are. If you get up to a 5, then you're going to some cutting. We're just below a 2. So A 2 is you can hurt the eyes. So ours is just below a 2. So it's very safe. And we use our laser for longer periods of time. And so it's really significant that we have the infinite amount of frequencies because your body becomes habituated. So when I first started, there were lasers that had 3 frequencies. Well, after a certain amount of time, those frequencies would not be helpful anymore. Right. And so there are millions of frequencies that we benefit from in numerous ways. And by using the frequencies, and we have the sound actually carries the frequencies and the lights into the cells. So it can go deep into the body. Our body's fluid. So these frequencies just go through the body and do their job, heal, help us feel better, feel younger, move better. The possibilities are just limitless.
And what about so it also integrates the acupuncture and acupressure points.
Yes.
So we're looking at laser plus sound frequencies plus acupuncture points, and then you're moving, I'm trying to build a picture for people who have never seen one, don't know what we're talking about. Like you've got a laser on one part of the body on an acupressure point, and another laser that is moving up and down the body in certain patterns. Can you explain that a little bit more? What's going on there?
Yes. So in our essentials package, you get 2 lasers. One's a main head, and that has all your frequencies and everything. Then you can connect another laser. And we typically put those 2 laser on points. And then what we have is a spiro, which is a spinning LED. So this you don't have to worry about looking at or whatever. We actually use the LED for vision and different things. But so the laser kind of sedates. So the acupuncture points become active. You can work on an acupuncture point, other areas of the body, and actually the brain will start working better. They've proven that. And so we use the spiro, which is a spinning LED, in between the 2 points, and that stimulates. So we make the connections going better because cold laser can go in and help it develop neurological systems that never develop. That's the problem with many of our children. It can go in and heal where there's a problem. And actually the cells can regenerate and create new nerves, new connections. They've shown, one research study took mice, and they took 18 mice and they split them in half, and they took a ball and just made damage to all their brains. And half the mice got a red laser every day. And then they took slides of the mice brains afterwards, and those that had had the light had regrown much of their damaged brain back, because it can help create new stem cells, which can go to the area that they're needed and become what they need to be. And so it's really fantastic. We're just so excited. We have comprehensives here at our Brain Boost Center, and we just had children here that within 3.5 days walking better. One little boy was babbling where he'd never talked. And we have different tools that we don't sell, like a frequency bed and a Tesla room and various tools like that. Then we have a brain machine that we can put the pads on and activate the limbic system of the brain. And so we can just, anyway, we're really excited about the possibilities and giving these children a chance that may have had no chance.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've worked with red light therapy, so photobiomodulation devices like transcranial ones from V-Light.
Nice.
Yeah, fantastic. Mm-hmm. Great for Alzheimer's, great for people with brain impairments like mum's had. Also full red light panels I have in my clinic. So I've got a hyperbaric oxygen therapy clinic, and we also use red light, and that works beautifully synergistically. You have a hyperoxygenation therapy in the hyperbaric, and then you hop in front of the red light for a period of time, and that's a really beautiful synergistic oxidative medicine. And so I'm in love with red light therapy, and the cold lasers sort of a variation on that for me. So this
Yes.
system of using the acupuncture, and it's a little bit complicated. So with if people are interested, they can go to your website. Actually, tell us what your website is and where people can find out about this.
Okay. Yeah, my website is reflexintegration.net. And we also have a Facebook page that's run by parents.
Mm-hmm.
And the one parent has organized all my blogs, all the testimonials. I mean, it's just a wealth of information on there. And that's called the Cold Laser Support, QRI Cold Laser Support.
So
Group.
QRI
Cold Laser Support Group on Facebook. And they just have to answer a couple of questions. And Danny, who's an amazing mother with a little boy with Down syndrome. And she has been doing this for, I think, 6 years. And this little boy, you can barely, he functioned at a high level. The first time he came to the comprehensive, he was running around. He wasn't talking. We had to run him outside for a while. We had to run him inside just to get him to slow down and focus and pay attention that anybody was even around. And now he comes to our center. He has his towel. He puts it on the bed. He tells the therapist what to do. He tells them that they're doing it wrong. And his progress is unbelievable. He is higher than a lot of the kids in his class. Wow. They were talking about pH and the sound pH, and none of the kids could give a pH word. And he said, well, what about photosynthesis? And so he's just, he's quick-witted. He's joking with his dad. Oh my gosh. It's just, he doesn't have to think about it. We talk about speech being difficult for them and taking so much more energy. I think I read it was like takes them 52% more energy than it does for us to just bring a word up. And so with Will, he just answers, doesn't even think about it. And he is just a character.
Man, that's just so amazing. And so what about children with autism? There's so much autism now.
Oh, I know. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we have another little. Yes, if the parent can be consistent. Autism is a little more difficult. So we have a parent in Dallas whose boy, when she started in cold laser, she started at a learning center there. Then she bought her own laser. She continued working there and has done for, I think, 7 years. He was severely autistic. He was wiping feces on the wall. I mean, he had to have a one-on-one with him all the time. There was no control. I was able to meet him about 3 years ago. He just had a few social skills. I'm sure he's in college now. I haven't talked to the mother for a couple of years, but he was getting ready to go to college. He had friends. He was living and his only label was a little bit ADHD.
Yeah.
So he didn't ever come back 100% that I know of. But compared to the quality of the lives that he had and that he has now, you just can't put a price on that. So what I'm saying is the mother worked with him for years, though. Danny's worked with Will for years. Now we get results right away often, and we start seeing progress all along. So it becomes, the parents that stick to it say it becomes addicting. They're addicted to the progress because they see little bits going as, every few days or every so often there's something that happens that is unexpected for that kid. We have numerous kids, like 2 of them, like 3 that came to this last comprehensive, said they would never walk. They would never talk. Well, they are walking and they are talking. Wow. It's babbling, but they're working on communication. So they may have to work a lot harder than a normal child, but they will have that eventually.
Amazing. This is amazing. And then for people with brain injuries as well,
Oh, definitely. Like the mouse and whatever. That's when the primitive reflexes go. That's is when they're, my dot, anyway, she showed me a sign. And I'm like, I did that already. Forgot what I was saying.
It's so good. So with adults with brain injuries, traumatic brain injuries.
Yes. Now we have a helmet that's a photomodulation with our frequency sweeps. Mm-hmm. I think that's what sets us above. I have a gift. I download information. And so my frequency sweeps are very magical. And so they get to so many more things that we weren't able to get to without the sweeps. I'm working on a literacy program now that's using that. But anyway, for the brain injuries, because you can. And if you don't have the helmet, parents put the laser on the brain. They know where the brain injury was. We also have a brain balance program, which are protocols for the different areas of the brain. So if they know the child has frontal lobe damage, then they can use that protocol. And they can use all the others just to tune the brain up. We have a protocol for cranial nerves that's really effective because that's so important. It works so coherently with our reflexes and neurological system.
Wow, this is just this amazing. And when you're looking at the acupuncture points, like none of us really like to go and have needles stuck in this. It's not really very nice. And you have to have stuck in there for quite a while sometimes, depending on what's happening. And with the cold laser, it's activating those points and doing it in a much, much shorter time. So 20 seconds is sort of 20 instead of 20 minutes.
Right. You can do that. And so you can even look up acupuncture points for your condition and use those points with your laser. So there's we use the cold laser on our pets. I get a session once a week. It helps, I'm getting on in years. And so it helps. It helps so much with my brain functioning, my posture. We have the symmetrical tonic neck reflex as people age. That's why they slump down. They start shuffling. It's a postural reflex also for vision and focus and so many other things. And so we don't realize, as we get older, the primitive reflexes become a bit weaker. If someone's driving down the road and they turn their head like this and their arms go like this, that causes a wreck. That's asymmetrical tonic neck reflex, ATNR. And so there are so many things just affect our daily lives. It's just, I feel like my vision's getting better and better instead of declining as, it would at this age. So.
Wow, that is really, because, when you look at older people, their posture does go. And I've always thought,
it does.
They're not working out and they're not doing, postural exercises and weight training, but it's actually partly a reflex. It
is partly a reflex, but if they're working out and moving, and then our reflexes stay stronger. Movement is huge for reflexes. If our children were not sitting in front of computers and tablets and TVs and playing games and all these other things, if they're out playing like children used to, we wouldn't have as many problems. With them, they would be more integrated. And now it's in most places, it's not even safe for them to go out and play and do the things that they used to be able to do.
Yeah, that's right. And when we, if in the animal kingdom, when a baby cow or calf or, a kitten is born or something, they immediately, they're up and moving, right? Is that reflex? Is that all instinctive? Is that the same thing?
I would think it is. I haven't really studied that, but I would think it would have to be. That's what's giving them the ability to do, all these things, to stand up and move around. And so because like a cow or a horse or something, or even a cat or whatever, they're more prey animals. So they have to be able to get moving when they're born, where our babies don't. And we are a more complex system. So it takes them a bit longer to integrate.
Yeah. And then, so if we look at just a couple of the reflexes, like the Moro reflex, can you explain the Moro? Because I've been studying the Moro a little bit and the Babinski one, because with mum, like we've got problems with the hands and we've got problems with the leg and the feet. She doesn't like touching her feet. She doesn't like it when I do these things. But explain the Moro reflex. What is that exactly?
So the Moro is the fight or flight reflex. And I mentioned it initiates birth, and it should fear paralysis comes first. It should turn into the Moro, and then it should be integrated by 3 or 4 months. If it isn't, then we have a person who's stuck in fight or flight. But as I mentioned before, also all these other primitive reflexes that are responsible for doing all these amazing things in our body cannot fully integrate. They'll be partially working. If Moro, there's stress in the body, even if you have an allergy, because the Moro is constantly, the cells are flipping in stress. And so the immune system's weakened. And your vision, as I mentioned with reading, you're stuck in fight or flight. Your vision, if the Moro reflex isn't integrated, then it's hard for you to look at the details because you're trying to look at the big picture. Is this safe? Should I run or should I stay? And so it's constantly impacting our decisions, our health, and our whole nervous system.
Wow. And the Babinski, that's
you're mentioning the two that are really the two important ones. The Babinski is when the toe goes back, when you stroke up the foot. Well, I found in fact, Babinski is the reason I started this program. I'm like, we are working years and years and years on Babinski, and it's still just as active as the day we started. Because, that's when doctors use to check the nervous system and to see. And if the toe reacts, then we know something's wrong. I was working on a stroke patient, a severe stroke. She'd been in a coma for 3 months and she'd had a severe stroke, and we were in the hospital, and I see the family's children. And so they asked me to go see the grandmother, and I worked, and I was, and she couldn't move or anything. So I'm just working what I can get to on the front of the body. I'm checking as I go along with some of the reflexes. So Babinski, there's nothing, no response whatsoever, which is typical for a stroke on both sides of the body, even the side that didn't have no response. Well, I work on Babinski for a while, and then I go up the foot and she has a response. And that's huge. Both the nurse and the doctor were just blown away. They said, do that again. And I did it again, and she had a response, because we don't want to see that response. But when it's broken, we want to see the response sometimes, and then it becomes integrated.
Yep.
And so it's the Babinski. It seems to me when you can't get Babinski integrated, that so many of your progress, both Moro and Babinski, it limits your progress. And right. So those are good. Two that I really emphasize and feel are so important.
Okay, well, that's good. And I'm gonna be working on those two because I know with Mum that those two are definitely active. And she doesn't like it. I touch her feet and she just goes through the roof.
And also, if people don't have a laser, I have Jamie just brought me my book here, The Symphony of Reflexes, is on Amazon, and it actually gives you techniques. So that, like the one for Babinski, I still use that even when I'm using the laser for stubborn Babinskis.
Right.
And
you can actually do it without even the laser. You could.
Yes. In my book, there are about 5 protocols for each reflex, and you just go in order and go through the book. And I get calls and emails from all over the world, from even doctors' children that are having results with this, with autism. So it's a nice way to get started. The laser is so much faster and so much better, but this is a really inexpensive way to get started. Read about primitive reflexes, because I go into detail about every primitive reflex. And then there are techniques to use.
The Symphony of Reflexes, and we'll put the link in the show notes to that on Amazon.
Okay, it's on Amazon, but I'll you can put in Bonnie Brandis and reflexes and it will come up.
Excellent. We'll make sure that we put that in the show notes, because I think people need to sort of get their head around the reflex thing first, and then
of course
cold lasers, and then get their head around the sound. And that's what I've been finding a little bit overwhelming in my research, is like, how do I integrate it all and work it out?
Definitely. I totally understand.
Yeah, there's a lot going on with the laser.
Yes.
There's a lot to it, and lots of different parts. And can you do anything wrong? Like, can you do anything that's going to cause harm by using the laser?
You can't do anything wrong. If you start out too fast, say on a child with Down syndrome, this lymphatic system's a little slow, so they're not detoxing normally. You can get a little bit of a detox.
Yep.
And so, they may not want to eat, they may not sleep, they may have a bad behaviors for a few days. Or there's also moral reorganization, when the brain reorganizes, and the child may go down a little bit because the brain's reorganizing. Many of our children miss those terrible 2-3 stages.
Yep.
Where they're just irrational. The brain's reorganizing, creating better routes to communicate. And so when we miss those stages, then the child needs to go through that.
Right.
So sometimes we see the reorganization in their behavior. Most of the children, we don't see it. It just happens. But once in a while, you can have too much of a detox, or you can have moral reorganization. But other than that, there really aren't any side effects. Like I say, we have a mild laser. And because the frequency sweep is infinite, we're not bombarding the body with 2 or 3 different frequencies that the body gets tired of, habituated to. And actually, you can get frequency toxicity. And so that's where it's really important to use a variety of frequencies, not just the same ones.
Right. So this is the frequencies that are in the light or in the sound, or is it the combination?
Both. It's both. So the frequencies make the sound and they go through the light.
Gotcha. So with this device, it has this sound emitting, and it's like,
yes.
You know, like up and down. And
yes.
For a start, I found it a little bit agitating, and then after a while, it became very meditative.
Yes.
That's how I found it, you know, when I had the treatment done with the lovely Sarah, she, you know, I felt very in a parasympathetic state, and I had a very stressful day that day, or a lot on. I was with Dr. Elizabeth Harris all day, and as you can imagine, she's just full of information. So I was just like,
she is. She's a wealth of information.
It's amazing. And so like my brain was just like all over the place. And then I had this session and I was just chill, and I was able to talk to all the scientists and things that evening without sounding like a crazy person. So it's really-
we have children with ADHD that are climbing the walls. By the end of a session or 2, they're drooling. Yeah, they're just so relaxed. They go to sleep and drool. And so,
well, I do. I mean, I didn't drool, but I did relax and I did go to sleep, you know, and I was completely, you know, afterwards, just like, whoa, that was really cool. So yeah, and so for someone who's very in a sympathetic, you know, fight or flight state a lot of the time.
Yeah, most of us are. We live in a crazy world, don't we?
Yeah,
we live in a crazy world. And so between all the EMFs and the chemicals and the stressful lives we live, it teaches us to just slow down, calm down, let the body heal. Because what we look for when we're working with a child is to put them into a really relaxed state so the body can heal.
Yeah.
And so...
yeah, and that's exactly because if we're in that fight or flight, as we know, nothing's working. Immune system's not working.
Nothing's working. Yeah.
Prefrontal cortex isn't working. All of those things are offline. You're not making good decisions. You're using all the energy up just to be fight or flight. Yeah. Look, Bonnie, this has been absolutely a fascinating dive into the world of QRI lasers and into all the reflexes, primitive reflexes. And it was completely new to me. Like, this is a new area. Like, nobody's ever told me this, even though I've been working with someone with a brain injury for a long, long time. This has all been completely new. And it's opened up a world of opportunity for the next progress for me with mum, you know, to help her do things, walk better, talk better, be able to balance better, you know, with this. And so I'm excited to see what happens as I unravel this and start to understand it better and how to integrate it better. So thank you so much for the passion and the knowledge that you bring to the world with all of this, with this amazing QRI laser device, with the frequencies, with the light, with the acupuncture, with the book that you've written, with the books that you've written. There is a course also that people get alongside if they want to get one of these things.
They get the course, and they also get, an online course and a really comprehensive manual. Before we had the online class, we send the manual out, and people in different countries that didn't speak English were using the program. There was a chiropractor in Sweden that spoke no English, and he had dyslexia. He used the program on himself and cured, and he was getting ready to retire. So he's an elderly man.
Yeah.
He completely cured his dyslexia.
Wow.
Without even taking the course or being able to read English. So if the person just relaxes, it's like follow the dots, and it's no session's ever perfect. We do our best. We hit the points the best we can. And it always works.
Don't worry about you doing something, because that's been inhibited for a little bit of, if I could do something.
No, I don't think I even have a perfect session ever, because you're focusing on the body and the person's needs and everything. So you just do your best, and maybe we'll come back and see Dr. Liz when all this craziness stops and have another class in New Zealand. That was one of my very favorite places to visit. So beautiful. And she took us so many wonderful places. So
yeah, she's an absolutely treasure of person.
Isn't
She's
she?
coming up to visit me up here in my hometown in New Plymouth next month, and so
awesome
to learn more. And we're going to have her on shortly as well to share all about brain rehabilitation and all this sort of things. So shout out to Elizabeth. Fantastic.
Yes.
Bonnie, thank you so much for your time today and the
Well,
work.
thank you so much.
It's been an absolute privilege.
I really enjoyed speaking with you.